explained, so we're going to begin. Doreen, we're going to begin. Good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 3:30 p.m. I call to order the February meeting of the Rules, Enactments, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee of the Orange County Legislature. This meeting is being transmitted live via video conference. I remind all participants to make sure that they've turned off their microphones or mute them on your iPad, your tablet, computer, or phone, especially while you're not part of the discussion. Also, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. Thank you. The public can find a link to this video cast by visiting the Orange County website, www.orangecountygov.com, clicking on the tab for the legislature, and locating the Rules Committee meeting on the calendar. At this time, would you please rise for a moment of silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
Thank you. Doreen, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Amo.
Here.
Benelli. Cheney.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Kulisek.
Here.
Here.
Hero.
Here.
And Fagion.
I'm here.
All present.
Thank you, Doreen. I also see that Chairman Brescia is joining us today, as well as legislators Lujan and Ruskevich. Good afternoon, all. For continuity purposes, as we go through the agenda items today, I'll ask those whose business it is before us to speak on those agenda items. I will then turn to the members of this committee for their questions. Next, I'll ask other legislators not on the committee if they have additional questions. I'll remind everyone once again, we are live streaming, and to make sure that if you are not speaking, to hit mute on your electronic device, please. And now I will turn to agenda item number 1. I will seek a motion and a second on the following. Joining us this afternoon will be Commissioner of Finance, Karen Hablow. And this is agenda item number 1, a local law to continue the imposition of tax under local law number 13 of 2009, known as the Orange County Hotel and Motel Room Occupancy Tax Local Law, for an additional 3 years. This is legislative request number 16, and I seek a motion and a second.
Motion, Amo.
Motion, Cheney.
Motion by Mr. Amo, second by Mr. Cheney.
Cheney.
Just for all listeners, I am hearing a little bit of feedback here, so if you would make sure you hit mute on your devices. And at this time, I'll call on the Commissioner. Commissioner Hablow, how are you this afternoon?
I'm fine, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So this is a request to initiate a local law, basically extending the existing hotel/occupancy taxed local law, which was initially established as local law number 13 of 2009. So it's merely a 3-year continuation of a law that has been in effect since 2009.
Okay, so this is just something that we've done in the past and it's come up yet again.
Yes.
Okay, I'll open it up to questions from legislators on the committee. I do have a question for Mr. Kulisek. Sir, the floor is yours.
Yes, enforcement of this law has reporting of the occupancies for Airbnb. Is that enforceable or has it been enforced?
So we have a contract with Airbnb as an organization, and all of their rent users or homeowners who operate and rent out their homes through Airbnb are all of the tax for those underlying homeowners is collected via the Airbnb application. So it is remitted to us in the aggregate on a monthly basis as through that contract.
Okay, what about the other services like VRBO or Home Away and things like that?
So
We don't have an agreement with them?
we do not have agreements with them yet. There was talk at the state level at one point that the state was going to try to enter agreements with those operators or vendors, whatever you want to call them. I don't think that has happened yet, but we were able to procure one with Airbnb in the meantime on our own because the state was taking a long time and then COVID hit. So I'm not sure where the state is in their negotiations with VRBO or other operators of the sort, but I can tell you that we do have many individual homeowners who are registered on VRBO are registered with us directly.
Okay, and we collect directly from the homeowner? The renters?
If they are renting through VRBO and they do the right thing as registering with us, I can tell you, honestly, I'm sure there are homeowners out there that have not done the right thing and registered with us and collected and remitted the occupancy tax. But because of, it's their responsibility to know the local laws and to adhere to them. We do try to make them aware of them, and obviously it's their responsibility to register with us. So we do the best we can to find everybody, but it's difficult to find everybody.
But that being said, we don't have anybody enforcing this. We don't go check the registry, and bed and breakfast, there's probably bed and breakfasts out there that aren't registered also, I would think, which have
I would
probably
be
a pretty.
I'd be surprised if there was a bed and breakfast that is not registered with us. We do a lot of cross-checking and we put a lot of resources towards it. For instance, anybody who tries to, just as one example, anybody who tries to advertise in our Orange County tourism brochure, we cross-check any of those vendors with our lists and stuff. So we do a lot of due diligence in trying to find vendors that might be out there that are not registered. I would venture to guess that all bed and breakfasts are registered with us because of the resources that we have in cross-checking and because they're more visible out there in the way that they're marketed and have websites and stuff. And we have had some of our staff here go online and research all the places in the county that advertise and stuff. The difference with an individual home is that it's sometimes when we go on VRBO, it could be difficult to determine exactly where they're located unless you try to register to rent the place. So for instance, you may have a cozy cottage, in Western Orange County with a pool. And that's how the tagline is on VRBO or one of those sites. That's difficult to know exactly where it is until you actually pretend you're trying to rent it, and then it'll give you the actual address of the place. So it's a little bit more difficult legally to pursue places through VRBO and try to find them without misrepresenting ourselves as a renter. So we do the best we can. But I dare say, I would guess that every bed and breakfast is registered with us because they advertise on the internet and they have websites and stuff, and we find them if they're not registered already. But we have actually had quite a few people with homes come forward and reach out to us asking what they need to do. So it's been good.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Kulisek. Karen, just quickly, just to remind us again, this local law, however, is on hotel and motel tax for standalone hotels and motels, correct?
Well, you can read the language is a little bit more specific, and it's right there in the law for you guys to interpret as you wish, but it's a little more expansive than that.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions from legislators?
Just another comment.
Yes, Mr. Kulisek.
Yeah, it's for anybody who rents a room, actually, and through any of these services or not through these services. It doesn't have to be a hotel or a motel or a bed and breakfast. It's just Airbnb or private residences that are on a regular basis rented out should be paying this tax.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'm going to call the question. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 2. Joining us this afternoon are Commissioners of Election Louise Vandermark and Courtney Canfield Green, and I'll seek a motion and a second on the following. And this is a request to accept and appropriate elections cybersecurity remediation grant program from the state of New York with a total of $158,239. This is legislative request number 23, and I need a motion and a second, please.
Vero
Benelli
motion.
Motion by Mr. Vero, second by legislator Benelli. Commissioners, good afternoon. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Louise and I would just like to begin and say election integrity is of utmost importance to Louise and I, and we really want to thank you all for all your help and endeavor and with all our endeavors this year and also last year. We also want to thank our IT department. Our Commissioner Burpo has been very integral in helping us with our IT needs and programs. And do you have anything you want to add with that?
No, we just, as far as this grant's concerned, besides everything else they've done, we wouldn't have known what to do, where to turn if it wasn't for the expert assistance and advice we received from them. They held our hands throughout this whole grant, and we're very thankful for all their help.
And that I'd like to give the floor to one of our great IT directors, Lane Hunt. Hi, Lane.
Okay, great. I will open it up to questions from legislators on the committee. All right, not seeing any. I'll open it up to questions from fellow legislators joining us this afternoon. And again, not seeing any. I'll then take, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Ladies,
Thank you.
before I cut you loose, I got a couple quick questions for you. Number one, can you give us a quick rundown on election 2021, some key dates that legislators and the public might be interested in?
Absolutely.
I think the most important thing for everybody sitting there, they've reduced the number of signatures that's going to be required on your petitions this year down to 150.
Or 1.5% of the political party.
Mm-hmm. So that's a great thing. They've cut the
signature requirement. So if you're carrying designating petitions, the first day to file those petitions would be March 2nd. And you're going to file them at our office between March 22nd through the 25th. And that's the designating petition process.
I think you mean getting
primary
signed,
date,
getting signed, right, March 2nd, and filing
Yes.
by March. Right,
signatures. Yes, please
Right.
don't start getting signatures until March 2nd, Mike. Yes.
Right, okay.
please.
Please, right. The primary for the 2021 primary begins on June 22nd, and the general election will be November 2nd. And early voting, we cannot forget about early voting. We will have 9 days of early voting for both events. And the first day for early voting for the primary is June 12th to June 20th. And for the general election, the first day for early voting is October 23rd to October 31st. So that's 9 days that our polling sites will be open. Some of our polling sites will be open in the county, so anyone can vote on the machine in person.
All right. All this information is available online right now?
Everything we
Yes.
just discussed is available on our website. Yes, there's a new political calendar. The petitions are posted, blank petitions are posted for any candidate wanting ballot access. And that's the best ways to check on the political calendar.
Okay, and a quick update on election 2020 and your annual report.
Thank you for asking us that.
And we're trying to forget it.
The election that we would never forget. Your annual reports will be emailed to you right after this meeting. So thank you. We hope you get to read all the fun we had in 2020.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the update. And as you mentioned, all of these dates and information is available right on the county website at the Board of Elections page.
Right.
Okay, Minority Leader Perdue.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in regards to the early voting polling sites, have any of them changed or will they be changed?
At this point, nothing has been changed,
Nothing's been changed. Thank you.
but
Louise and I have to,
sit down when we have a minute and discuss it.
we had to make sure we had our grant taken care of.
There's
Okay.
been a lot going on.
Well,
Sure there has.
I can assure you that the commissioners will be back in the coming months to keep us updated and up to speed on as we move forward. And I just want to thank both of them and their staffs. And I appreciate the information today, as well as the annual report being sent to us electronically. Much appreciated, both. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Most welcome.
Okay, we'll turn our agenda item number 3. And this is an update, so I will need a motion and a second on the following. And I'll ask our Independence Party leader, Mike Lamo, to join us, along with Jonathan Drapkin and Joshua Weiss, for an update on the Diversity Intervention Initiative. And for discussion purposes, may I get a motion and a second, please?
You got a motion here.
Benelli motion.
Mr. Amo with the motion and Legislator Benelli with the second. Mr. Amos, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we agreed when we began this process, that the steering committee and the consultants on the Diversity Intervention Initiative project would come before the Rules Committee as necessary to keep you apprised of the movement of the process. And now we're ready to talk a little bit more about where we are. The first month we gave a brief overview. We can give you a little more. I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan and Josh to take it from here.
Thank you, Legislator Amo. We had appeared before you last month, I believe on January 20th, and we said we'd come back at your next meeting to update you on the process. So as you may recall, a memo had gone out at the end of December seeking suggestions for potential projects that might fit within the framework of that which we proposed in the contract. And I always want to go back to the contract to say that we need to manage expectations. There will be those that will think this is about solving anti-Semitism or racism. It is not. It is about what happens when a conflict emerges and there is an opportunity to try to resolve it without resorting to things like litigation or anger, hostility, frustration in the community. And the idea is to try to prove a concept, as my partner Josh would like to describe this. So of the submissions from the legislators that we received, we were able to condense them into, actually there were 5. And we did interview all 5 legislators. And in some cases, they had additional people who they wanted us to speak with in order to understand the conflict that they had in mind. Now, initially, all they had to submit to us, in some cases, 1 sentence. And that was enough to generate us reaching out to them to say, please tell us what you had in mind. The framework, it's important to go back to the framework, because the framework of what we propose suggests that there are the conflict can be divided so that there are representatives for 2 sides to a conflict. There is a conflict that can potentially be resolved within the time frame of this contract, and that our hope is that it becomes a model and that it can be scaled up, not the other way around, but scaled up to take on some amount of conflicts within the county. I think we're very pleased that after the interviewing the 5 submissions, that we're ready to move forward with one at this point. And the first one would be in the town of Woodbury. And it involves the nature of a water dispute. And we can clearly articulate the parties involved, though at this point we have a lot of research to do. There's a lot of history to this project and to this dispute. But we're pleased that we think it fits the model. And with regard to a second project, the door is not closed. In fact, we're still looking for one that, as you may recall, centers on issues of social justice and potentially in the Newburgh area, but we're not ready. There is not a defined project yet that can meet the parameters of how we want to frame the model for conflict resolution. So we're very pleased with where we are. We're ready to get to work on the first one, and hopefully the second one will become clearer within the next 30 to 60 days. If it becomes clearer before we have an opportunity to update rules, we'll go to the steering committee, make certain they're apprised of what we're going to do for a second project. But we are exactly where we hope to be as of February 17th.
Jonathan, would Josh have anything to say, or do you want us to open it to questions?
I mean, other than what Jonathan had articulated, in general, I think one of the most important things that we tried to listen for as we talked to folks was what I would call the doability factor, that we have a window of time to do this. And so we wanted to pick projects and conflicts that essentially could be addressed in that period of time. But as Jonathan mentioned, and I think is very important, that this is designed to demonstrate a way of approaching these situations writ large. And we're comfortable that the first one will be able to do that. And we're very hopeful that the one that's in the works will also do something along those lines, but needs a little more cultivation.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, if you want to open it to questions, we're open for that. Otherwise, we brief the committee as our responsibility.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Amo, and I want to thank Jonathan and Josh for the update. I like to keep notes, and I scribbled down as much as I could here. I just want to compliment you for reaching out to the legislators that did present some subject matter, and clearly that shows that this isn't just lip service. You received these proposals, and you've had conversation with the legislators who have presented those issues. One of the things that I find reassuring as someone from Western Orange County is that you focus on this as being a model. You mentioned it, Jonathan, as to be scaled up. One of the takeaways that I want to get from this is whatever it is, the issue in Woodbury or other issues, how we discuss the conflict, the situation, can be extrapolated into each one of our communities. And I look forward to taking what you guys educate us with and bringing it home here. And it could be a neighbor dispute. It could be a dispute with a club or an organization. It could be a municipal matter, or even like a social matter or whatnot. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the candor and all that. I will defer to my colleagues now. I see that Minority Leader Paduch has his hand raised. Mr. Paduch, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in regards to what I appreciate too, what you reaching out and still deciding on the second project, and maybe we'll get updated on that. I just wanted to ask, how many people will be working on each individual project?
I think that what Josh and I, and then Pattern staff, Josh is much more skilled than I am in mediation. So as far as the actual discussion between the parties, Josh will take the lead. Pattern is going to supplement Josh's knowledge. As I understand, part of this process is whoever is trying to get both sides closer to a resolution, the greater the information that he has, in this case, Josh, the better it is for him. He has to be an educated mediator, if you will, to understand the history of the conflict. That's why the first one, there is a long history there. And Pattern will be working on supplying that case information to Josh, but Josh will be taking the lead with regard to the mediation.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
Mr. Paduk, I can say that in general, my experience is having somewhere between 3 and 4 people from each side is preferable. I find bigger groups, they tend to get distracted and off topic a lot. So the other thing I would just say is as well that part of the goal for this process, there's going to be a training component to this. So before we start, this isn't a typical mediation. What I'm trying to do is leave a model so that, when we train, for example, the folks in that initial dispute, those folks will be trained in a problem-solving process so that if other things come up between those communities, those people will be prepared to then sit down again and work that through. So it's not a typical mediation in one sense where the mediator guides things. It's really more trying to empower them to learn the skills so that when this happens, they think, hey, let's reach out to X as opposed to, hey, let's file a lawsuit. And so that's the methodology here. And, again, the amount of people it's not critical, but smaller often is better. And as I mentioned to the groups involved in that scenario, whatever is created, should of course be reviewed by each side's legal team to make sure there's a comfort level there, et cetera. But I think that, one important notion to all of this is that when people have a hand in creating the solution to a problem, they're far more likely to actually follow through with it. And there's lots of research on all of that. But that's the general process, is that we're going to, have these communities select folks. I'm going to train them, and then we're going to get to work. We're going to have them roll up their sleeves and try to work on that specific situation.
Okay, yeah, I understand what the situation is in that area too. So I think it'll be important. I think it'll be pretty important if you can resolve that one. Pretty important.
So I think it's important that we also all understand that Josh and I are consultants. The contract will end. We are thinking now, what do we want to leave the legislature with? What kind of tools? What kind of things, so that the benefit of having had us work on the 2, what I'll call definable projects, is that there is a greater deliverable that you're left with, that you can point to and say, this was a good project. We're better equipped to deal with conflict resolution within the County of Orange.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paduk.
You're welcome.
Additional questions from legislators on the committee? And I know we have other legislators joining us. Other legislators that aren't on the committee, any questions? And these guys are good. Josh and Jonathan came prepared today, Mr. Amo. Mr. Amo, final thoughts from you, sir? You're on mute right now.
Maybe they'll teach me how to use this machine. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to get it going. And I know that Jonathan and Josh have worked quite quickly to get this far. We've got put a lot of work behind us in a month, and I'm looking forward to seeing it start to roll out. So thank you, and we will update in March if there's something to say, or I will apprise you, Mr. Chairman, that we will not. I will keep you informed.
Okay. All right, final chance for any questions. Not seeing any, then I'm going to excuse Jonathan and Josh. Say, guys, get back to work, and appreciate the efforts.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck with the rest of your meeting. Take
Thank
All
care.
right, well, the rest of the meeting is, that's about it. The agenda has now been completed. And that being said, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Emo, second by Mr. Cheney. All right, thank you all. Please be well, be safe, and be careful in the pending weather coming up. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Be safe, everybody.